Christian Eriksen has been an absolute sensation since he joined Manchester United on a free this summer. He's comfortably been one of our better players. I think there's only him and Lisandro Martinez that can really hold their head up for how they perform for the entire of this season. Danish midfielder has started all 7 games of Manchester United this season, and with Erik ten Hag keen to bring him into the United fold, you can see why. You can see exactly what Ten Hag thought Eriksen would offer, why he was so desperate to bring him in. But what changes has our new number 14 made to the way that we play? Number 1, midfield missing piece. United have been looking for a midfielder that plays consistent balls into the channels, into the forward line, into the feet of the forwards. You could argue Carrick was probably the last really true brilliant player to do that for us, and his ability to do that diminished as he got later into his career. But realistically, Carrick has been hugely overlooked by a lot of United's fan base because there was like bigger name players around him. But what Michael Carrick did was difficult to do, and he did it to a high degree of skill. Christian Eriksen, even though he's generally a little bit further forward, he's probably one of the only people putting the ball into those dangerous areas from so deep. Obviously, you have Bruno Fernandes putting the final ball in, but moving it from the back to the front with such skill, there's only really Christian Eriksen that has been able to do that in recent years. He is the link between defence, midfield and attack. We have massively struggled and do massively struggle whenever he isn't even on the pitch. And considering he came on a free, he's looking like the bargain of the season in the Premier League, especially with how much we were probably going to spend on Frankie de Jong. His name not really being linked so much to United, it seems like we probably got the better end of the deal. Rather than spending 100 million-ish on Frankie de Jong, having Eriksen on a free and having him play week in, week out might actually be a masterstroke, whether it was intended or not. With the passes and plays that he creates and that he sets up, he's looking to be the difference between why United look so dangerous on a counter-attack this year and why we look so assured in possession this year. In Ten Hag's style of play and in his philosophy, he always has a midfielder that gets on the ball in behind the opposition midfield, and Eriksen is the player in this United team that does what we used to see Ten Hag having with Hakim Ziyech when it was at Ajax. Number 2, confidence. Another thing that United have been missing for the last couple of years are confident, quality footballers, especially in the midfield. And Eriksen is one of those players. And you can tell that he's not going to hesitate like some other players have because they're worried that they might not quite make it or whatever. He knows his ability. He knows he's good and he goes, I'm going to put that pass right there. He's got the instinct to play good, dangerous balls, and he's looking to play through the lines and break the lines, and it's something that United have missed for a long, long time. Someone with that sort of ability, whether you want the pass with perfect weight on it, backspin to it for the right winger so he can just touch it and get it out of his feet. Do you want that to the left winger as well? No problem. He could do all of that. Eriksen's ability on the ball makes the teammates better and it makes them more confident compared to players who maybe going to withhold it a little bit and look for the safer option sometimes. The forwards seem more likely to run because they're more likely to get it, and they're more likely to score because the types of passes seem to be putting them into really dangerous positions before the defenders have time to set, which is another thing. Number 3, forward thinking. He does seem genuinely like the only player in midfield that is willing to pass the ball forward consistently. For such a long time, United haven't really had a stable midfield that you could call anything close to world class. I do hope Casemiro turns it round and becomes the player we know he can be. Him alongside Eriksen is a formidable partnership. But it's been such a long time since United has had a midfield where you can say, yeah, that's the one. And even Paul Pogba, when he was here, he might have won 8 or 9 out of 10 game, but then the next 3 or 4 is going to be 4 and 5s out of 10 where he takes an extra touch, or he wants to beat a man, or he wants to use a skill rather than doing the simple and effective thing. And not only does this relate to the forward thinking with what Eriksen does, the way he plays and the way he looks to pass it forward, but United have been accustomed for the last few years with passing backwards and sideways, and without a sort of progressive midfielder that wants to push the team forward, that wants to create dangerous opportunities, that wants to stop the opposition getting back and resetting in time by playing fast, forward-thinking, aggressive football. And that's really hindered United's attack over the last 3 or 4 years. Last season, there were some games where United looked like they were crying out for help in a big way in midfield, and not just with a defensive midfielder, but also backup areas to the first team in the number 8 sort of position. And McFred starting most games was frustrating the hell out of a lot of United fans. We seem to try and go defensive first in midfield, but with selecting those 2 players who are not good on the ball and certainly nowhere near Casemiro and Eriksen on the ball, you're giving up possession and you're asking them to do more of the work which they excel at, which is defending. But sometimes you're asking too much of them too often, and you're giving up the ball cheaply for no real marginal gains. That sort of inconsistency that we saw has been corrected just with the signing of Eriksen. And you can see the desire from him, not just when he's on the ball to put in dangerous balls and move the team forward, but the desire from him to get back and cover. And whether he's personally lost possession or someone else in the team has lost possession, you've got someone that's willing to get back. Someone in between Bruno and Casemiro, if you like, that tracks back, especially when United are pressing high, is absolutely vital. Work rate is how pressing teams operate. If you don't have the work rate, you don't have anything. And that's vital after the first 2 losses. It's been so clear Ten Hag wants his midfield to do more work and to outwork the opposition and not rely on the back 4 and De Gea to stop goals from going in, but to stop them collectively as a football team. He's also used to tracking back and playing in defensive formations because the style under Spurs manager Antonio Conte at Inter Milan, he played with Brozovic and Barella, and he played the role of the 8 in there in that 3 that Bruno plays now at United. And you could say that his role has swapped a little bit since he's arrived at Old Trafford. Barella was playing more of a box-to-box midfielder between the defensive midfielder, but he still had to go and do those hard yards of getting back behind the ball when the opposition breaks. So he's used to the sort of work rate. And certainly in that Brentford side, he was asked to work very hard, and he did so no problem. And number 5, he's always an option. He genuinely, he finds himself in great positions. Do you remember last season? You must have saw some of the lowlights that we were seeing from both Fred and McTominay, where they were both hiding behind the opposition strikers or number 10s, so they didn't receive the ball. Eriksen finds himself in those positions. He gets himself in those positions. And so far this season, he's played in numerous different positions. From the first match against Brighton, he's played as a false 9. Against Brentford, he's played as a deep-like playmaker with Fred alongside him. In the win versus Liverpool, he's played as an 8 with Bruno, which really benefited United's counter-attacks against him in that game. Ever since, he's even been played with an 8 with Bruno, or he's even dropped a little bit deeper as a 6 with McTominay when he's been doing a little bit defending. And it's paid off. United have won 4 games in a row in the league after the first 2 horror games against Brighton and Brentford. The Real Sociedad game, it was a very rotated 11 and it sort of took us out of our stride a little bit. But you look at the games that we've won and Eriksen's pattern out, and even actually in the loss against Real Sociedad, he was probably still our man of the match. As shown during his time at Inter, at Spurs, at Brentford, and with the Danish national team, he can play in a variety of different positions and excel. And whether that's on the wing, where he actually played 136 times in his career, or as an 8, where he's played 96 times, or with, it's the signing of Eriksen not only brings a very good technically gifted midfielder. I thought he was going to be back up to a couple of different positions because of that versatility. I didn't think, probably at the time, I thought we were still going to sign Frankie de Jong. But he's made that position his own. And if we see a United team sheet that comes out now that doesn't have Eriksen into it, people are going to be sitting there going, hang on, why? What's going on? Why has this happened? If Bruno gets injured, he can fill in there. If Rashford gets injured, he can fill in there. Like, there is a quality, an assurance and a confidence that he just brings no matter where he is on the pitch. He has been one of our best signings for a long, long, long time. And I think there's only Lisandro Martinez that comes close to him in a red shirt this season. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.